Hello YouTube, thanks for tuning in. And this show's called Nobodies. We're just two nobodies, talk about nothing, and nobody's watching, so we do whatever. And today we got a guest, Rodolfo, and we're here to talk about police militarization and just what's going on. So, guys?
I'm gonna throw the, I know, unpopular opinion around here. I don't have a problem with the equipment they're carrying, I just have a problem with how they're using it. Okay, so everyone, for example, are complaining about how they've got tanks, right? But, I mean, let's be honest here, they're not actual tanks, they're just cars that are bulletproof.
They're mine-resistant vehicles.
Right. Are you planning on fighting the police with mines and RPGs?
Well, that begs the question, are they planning to fight with who? You know?
Well, and that's...
Well, I do understand, like, people, like, okay, so there's the Second Amendment, right? And so people are able to have guns, and people say we should have the same guns that police have, that military have, so we can protect ourselves in the case that things go wrong and they try to usurp power from the people. So in that case, I kind of do understand how police should have high-caliber weapons if people are able to have access to high-caliber weapons as well.
That's exactly where I'm coming from with this. Right. I just think some people are blowing this out of proportion and not looking on the real issue. Like, again, I go back to the armored vehicles. I mean, they're meant for defense, all right? They're not going to exactly hurt anyone unless a cop decides to get drunk and start running people over with it. And the bottom line is, I mean, why arguing against armored vehicles to me is like the same as arguing against cops shouldn't have Kevlar. I mean, it's one thing if you're saying, yes, I don't believe cops should have light machine guns. Obviously not. But that's an offensive thing,
right.
And we're talking about defense here.
Right.
And the way it's being implemented, I don't really think the cops need heavy equipment to do bad things that have been going on. Like, you know, the no-knock SWAT raids. I mean, people get hurt in there, just the baby that got flashbanged.
Right.
Flashbangs are standard police equipment. People get shot during no-knock SWAT raids because if they hit the wrong house. I mean, it didn't matter if they were carrying a machine gun or an M16 or, you know, just a pistol. This would have happened anyway. I'm saying it's not really the equipment that's the matter, it's how we're using police.
Right, it is how we're using police. Earlier we didn't see this as much of a discussion or as much passion into the subject earlier, and they've had this type of weaponry since as long as I can remember, probably, you know, before we were, you know, before 25 years plus years before, you know, they used it in the drug war. They ran people's doors down and bars into the garage with, you know, the armored vehicles and stuff. So they had that for a while, and we never really had this type of discussion in society in contemporary American politics before. But I think what it is the use of it right now. Its use is intimidation. It's a scare tactic. It's a you know,
absolutely
a psyop. It's trying to intimidate and scare the people. And when they're throwing tear gas at reporters and peaceful protesters, and they're driving around in these vehicles with, you know, assault rifles and you know, decked out in the latest military gear, then it's the question of why are they using it in this fashion. I can understand if there was some type of, you know, rebel group, terrorist group in America where people do need the police do need the armored vehicles, but
yeah, just look at the LA riots. I mean, bad stuff does happen. That's why I'm saying we do need, you know, just in case of emergency, have this stuff. But I completely agree that we're using this way out of proportion that we should be using it. And that's just pretty much my thing. We just need to better regulate ourselves. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that it has to do with the drug war. I mean, I was reading this quote, I wish I could remember the article, but it was saying, like, we have a drug war, so the feds think that our police need to be warriors. And that's exactly why we see the rise of the, I forgot the catchy title, Soldier Cop or something like that.
Warrior Cop.
Yeah, Warrior Cop, there you go, thank you.
Yeah, because there is a war on American people. If you have drugs, and the war is against you, and they're going to come knock down your door and, you know, throw you in a cage, you know. So there's ever since Nixon enacted that, there's been that's when police militarization started, was because of the drug war, because you're waging a war against people who are using substances. So there's going to be that military aspect that's you know, been building up ever since then. It's been a snowball effect, and now it's kind of just blew up, and, you know, it's in everybody's face. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I think that every department has a purpose. I think we have too many, but people say they need MRAPs or whatever to protect. You know, there's big guns out there. There's a lot of gun owners with big guns out there. So a lot of cops saying, well, we need big guns, we need big tanks too. My thing is, when have you ever needed that? I mean, are they getting shot at with armor-piercing rounds? Are they getting shot at with automatic AK-47s? No, they're getting shot at with pistols, maybe. I mean, are there mines in the streets that they need a mine-resistant vehicle? No. If there really is a terrorist group in America, or if there was an army or something, you'd call the National Guard. That's what they're for, you know? Not the police. The police are supposed to handle the business, the small stuff. If you need something bigger, call the National Guard. I mean, if you give these guys toys, military stuff, what do you think they're going to turn into? How do you think they're going to use it? What are these toys for? They're for killing people. They're for intimidating. So...
Right, but I mean... I don't want to say it's better to be safe than sorry because that'll make me a hypocrite in other things that I stand for, but I'm saying, like, you don't need to necessarily being hit with armor-piercing rounds and think that you need to have a good defense. I mean, it's not hard to build a Molotov, and those things are very dangerous. Again, I'll just bring up the LA riots. I mean, buildings were burning down to the ground.
Hang on. What did they do? They called the guard.
Right, but I mean, in the amount of time it takes you to go summon the guard, and the amount of time that it would just take if the police were armed, you could save a couple of lives. I'm pretty sure if some, you know, person loses their kid in the middle of a riot because the National Guard didn't come in time, is going to be thinking really differently than you do.
But, hang on. You know what areas of LA didn't get bothered? The stores and the shopkeepers and the homeowners who were armed.
Yes, absolutely. And I do think there is a bit of a disconnect between we want to make sure people don't have guns, and yet we want to make sure the police all have the guns. Because that ruins the complete argument of why these police need to be armed to begin with. Because if the citizens aren't armed, what the hell did the police need to be armed for? What I'm just saying is that there needs to be a bit of a balance between the two. Because if the citizen is heavily armed, then I can understand the justification for that. If the citizen is not armed, then yes, this is a complete waste. And of course, this also has to tie in with... So my thing is, does it really hurt anyone that, you know, a police may have an armored vehicle? I don't really see the harm in that, except in terms of economics, because it does cost money to maintain that stuff. And I was reading an article in the Washington Post saying that all this stuff that police are getting from the military is surplus material the DoD isn't using anymore. So we have this armored vehicle in Afghanistan right now. DoD says, okay, we're not using it anymore. We're either going to trash it or we can give it to the cops. It costs about $50,000 to take that thing back to the States and give it to the police. Or we could just demolish it right there and save $40,000. In that respect, I can definitely understand it because, you know, wasting taxpayer dollars is always unethical. It's cheaper to at least demolish the thing, and, you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of police can live without it. I mean, you also have to take into account certain, bottom line, small rural towns, they don't need this stuff at all. It's completely unjustified. For me, if you're going to have all this equipment, it needs to be somewhere like Oakland or somewhere like LA where this stuff is actually, you know, likely. But if you're in a rural town where nothing ever happens, then yeah, of course, it's a complete waste to keep those things.
But my thing is, okay, you bring up Oakland. I work in Oakland. And let's say they have the MRAP. You're right. You know, it's for defensive purposes. But when people see that, they're going to feel uneasy. And when cops hop in that, they're like a little military. And honestly, this is just a feeling. I can't back this up with any evidence. But when you have that kind of weaponry or defensive capabilities, you feel a little superior.
Well, they feel like cowboys.
They feel like cowboys.
Like, okay,
thank you.
I got, you know, all this weaponry. I'm driving this truck. I'm a if you mess with me, then there's, you know, there's a whole attitude around that as well.
Which is what we saw in Ferguson. Which is my point. Is these guys ride around like cowboys, and they feel like they're hot stuff. And these people are just walking around minding their own business, and these guys are, you know, riding around on tanks. So
I think it
kind of stokes the fire,
right.
You know.
That's true that there is abuse as far as the mentality of it is concerned. I think, though, is just because something has the potential of being bad, though, doesn't mean that we shouldn't do with it.
I think it all comes down to the attitudes of our police officers and their training. If we look at the training, it's like military boot camp. You know, they're getting yelled at, they're getting screamed at, and you know they're.
Well, to accept that some of that is necessary.
Yeah, some of that is necessary, but I think there's definitely that. There's a culture of where the people in charge may let that power go to their head, and you have to keep up, and you have to be strong in that culture and adapt to it. So I think a lot of our young police officers, they have to adapt to that attitude, and that's why there's not a lot of exposure, and you know, they're a lot more discreet than we'd like them to. Is because of that old boys club environment and mentality that they have.
Right, it's true, and that's the thing that actually does need to be addressed. Because that really is the core of it. It's the attitude of how the police are deciding to use all this stuff. And part of that, I think, is really subsidized through the federal government because of the war on drugs.
Right.
Because, I mean, the more drug busts you go down, the more support you get from the feds. I mean, that completely incentivizes you to do all of these SWAT raids.
And civil, what's it called, asset forfeiture. You know, when they see stuff, a lot of these governments, I don't remember if it's state or local, but they can actually take the stuff that they get in the raid and sell it.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, creating a profit motive.
Yeah, that stuff needs to get cut out just right off the bat.
Well, if we look at the police, I mean, is it just a profit motive for the government?
I think so.
In regards to that issue, absolutely.
Well, in regards to most issues, if we look at the macro scale of things, is it just a way to, you know, make a profit and keep the people, you know, subdued?
I think so. But it's a little off topic.
Well, it has to do with the militarization part, and we're going off into the mentality of police, but...
Another time.
Alright.
I mean, we could, yeah, okay.
I promise.
Okay.
We'll do it. Alright. Well, I just think it's a bad idea. I think it's a slippery slope. I think that these guys don't need that kind of weaponry. I think that they need to be out on the streets, just like in the old days. You walk your beats, you say hi to all the neighborhood community people, friendly, shaking the hands. I know it's difficult in rough neighborhoods, but you know what? It's your job. You signed up for that. If you get wounded on the line or you get hurt, that's your job. Sorry.
But we're not talking about your average, everyday Joe cop. I mean, your average cop walking a beat isn't armed to the teeth and isn't kicking down doors. It's mostly to do with the use of SWAT. That's the issues that really bring this up. And when things get out of hand, people get paranoid, like it happened in Ferguson, and that was just a complete PR disaster. They decided to roll everything out. But that's the issue. Not really your average cop isn't the issue.
Well, I'm saying that that's what they need to do. They don't need to be doing the SWAT stuff and they go ho kicking down the doors. They need to be doing the beats and the friendly officer on the street.
I think they need more training in that aspect.
That too.
They need to learn how to be a counselor, a conflict resolver. The number one way a police resolves conflict is by yelling at you, putting their hand on their weapon, and yelling at you some more, and then putting you on the floor. They will physically manhandle you onto the floor and put you in cuffs.
Well, I don't think we should make the presumption that any of us know how your average cop works. We want to see the stuff that puts on the media.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Like I respect cops, and it's a tough job. I'm only speaking from personal experience. Not doing much, minding my business in the park after night, and stuff like that tends to happen. But like I said, I think it all comes down to the training. I think they need to be trained a little more. Not more, maybe a little more emotional training.
Right, but I also think we need to keep in mind that the heavy stuff does have its place. I just think it needs to be considerably toned down.
Exactly.
I mean, bad stuff does happen in certain places. Right. I mean, again, small towns, this stuff is completely unnecessary. But when we're talking about big places where, stuff does go down, I mean, you need to have that stuff, and people need to be trained in regard to do all those heavy...
We definitely need to have our police well armed, and so they can protect us. You're right, and especially inner cities and big cities that have a huge populace, and things are condensed. There is a possibility for things to go wrong where police do need that protection. I totally understand that.
Yeah, it's just all about restraint. That's my thing. It's all about restraint. And that's just exactly what we're lacking. That's exactly what the problem is. Well, that's about my last words on the subject. You got anything?
No, I think I'm good.
Alrighty then. Well, that's it for today, YouTube. Thank you for watching if you did. See you next time.